What if Palpatine died after becoming Chancellor? Let's explore the depths of it in the video. While the people of Theed celebrate below, Palpatine looks over the reports on his approval ratings in the aftermath of the Naboo Crisis. As expected, such a dramatic and early victory had brought his poll numbers through the roof from both the people and the Senate. He laughs and relaxes on his chair and nods approvingly. It would be one of just many crises ahead. The Republic was dying. Everyone knew, from the highest senators to the lowest of commoners. The difference is now it would all be out in the open, and he would be the great hero who stands against the void, fighting for peace and security. Palpatine examines his datapad, showing some of the correspondences with his allies and their updates on the next phases of his plan. Naboo made a fine spark, but now it is time for the fireworks to begin. Suddenly, his chest clenches up, and the laughter turns to gasps. He stumbles to his feet, knocking his chair over behind him. His right hand clutches his chest, while his left arm goes numb.
My only weakness. Dying.
His legs give way underneath him, and he collapses face first into the ground. And there Palpatine lies, unconscious, until his master finds him. Darth Plagueis, still known as Higo Damask, is the first to arrive. He finds Palpatine and begins to inspect him. He is alive, barely. His first instinct is to channel the Force and search for possible assassins. As he conducts his search, he's surprised to find no such clues leading to that. Instead, it seems as though Palpatine's heart simply gave out. The Sith Lord stares at his apprentice in shock, questioning how something like that could have happened at such a time. Perhaps the Force itself has decided to intervene. However, there is no time to waste, as the short-lived Chancellor's advisors soon show up. Captain Tarkin, Speaker Mas Amata, Senator Orn Free Tar, and Master Dooku of the Jedi Order. All of them are equally surprised to see him like this, and they all begin to glance around cautiously. Their reactions are just as the Sith had expected. Mas keeps his face a mask of calm. Orn is starting to sweat. Dooku, a mixture of amusement and anger. And Tarkin. He is looking at the corpse impassively, as if already considering what his options might be.
There was no assassination. It seems as if he simply suffered a heart attack.
A heart attack? Now, of all places, right when he has just begun his term. Surely that seems suspicious.
Not any more suspicious than if we do not get him a doctor. Palpatine still lives and may yet be saved. Slim as those chances may be.
The rest of them look around and nod, their eyes widening as none of them step forward to save the Chancellor. Truthfully, none of them felt any real loyalty towards Palpatine. All of them could only think about what this could mean for their careers.
There are not many left. Newt Gunray has taken the good doctors detained during his occupation. Captain Panaka is still investigating the detention facilities. So any doctor left is not a good doctor. Then, who is in favor of getting a bad doctor?
Are you mad? What if he wakes up and finds out?
If he wakes up, then we say we got a good doctor. If not, then we didn't. But he won't know. One of the Viceroy's aides has a list of all the remaining doctors in the city. Good. Bring them here and have them treat the Chancellor. If things go badly, we'll pin it all on this aide. Then we shoot him.
The rest of them nod in agreement and begin making preparations. As they depart, Plagueis' eyes meet Tarkin's. The two men stare at one another. The officer's eyes are flat and cold, while the banker's eyes are hungry and greedy. Both of them know that Palpatine won't be the only one to die. For the next few days, they make a show of treating the Chancellor, who is placed under intensive care. Few visitors are allowed, and those who do are closely monitored. Their questions about his health are answered with a litany of medical jargon, and even the most enlightened Jedi Masters would struggle to understand. Palpatine is hooked up to various machines that all appear impressive, but don't do much, all the while being tended to by a small army of back-alley doctors, swamp-dwelling Gungan shamans, and even a quack Jedi healer Dooku found. Unsurprisingly, Palpatine does not pull through. The death of a Chancellor is always a great blow, especially one so young and just riding off a great success. As a result, a great funeral is planned in his honor on Coruscant. Millions arrive from across the city to pay their respects to a Chancellor who might have burnt out quickly. but had seen the Republic through one of its worst crises in recent memory. His allies all give speeches and make gestures to show how they wish to carry on his memory and further their careers. Plagueis personally finds the cash for this event, sparing no expense in this funeral. Meanwhile, Tarkin gives a fiery speech, talking about Palpatine's desire to bring peace and security to the galaxy, and how he will work to ensure that, as Palpatine's trusted security consultant, he will begin championing reforms that will lead to a more secure Republic. He is riding high on their success during the Naboo Crisis, and the uncertainty from that time ensures he gains support. But first, conflict comes not from the battlefield, but from the banking clan over the bill for the funeral. Plagueis presents this to Maz Amata, who is made the acting chancellor until elections can be conducted. At first, he seems receptive to paying off such expenses, but Tarkin rejects such a notion.
This funeral is quite costly, honorable representative. Too expensive.
The Chancellor would have been honored.
Then you choose to expose your arrogance. The Chancellor was a long-time advocate of fiscal responsibility. Such an expense is something the Republic cannot afford. I have already petitioned the Speaker to reduce the budget for it.
Reduce? After the preparations have been made? After I have already secured contracts and supplies?
Your eagerness to honor the Chancellor is noted and respected. But in this situation, it is perhaps foolish if you have reached out before the budget was finalized. The revision was submitted before the deadline for the budget submission. If we have gone over budget, then you may be inclined to pay out of pocket, in memory of the late Chancellor.
How dare you, slimy little...
Now, it would be unbecoming of us to fight before the funeral.
Plagueis curses him under his breath, but there is no changing what has already been done. Even if he were to kill Tarkin now, it would mean an investigation on what happened. And he'd have to deal with the entire Republic bureaucracy both for that and the funeral. All he can do is grit his teeth and shake his head as the funeral proceeds as planned. The funeral is just as extravagant as ever, with Naboo fighters soaring overhead, visits from dignitaries across the Republic, and a lavish feast for many visitors. About half of that comes from Plagueis' pocket. But as the Chancellor is laid to rest and the Republic prepares to return to normal, Captain Tarkin acts as Chancellor Amata's new security advisor, where he proposes a series of sweeping changes. He has seen the chaos left over from the Naboo Crisis and highlights the need for a greater security in the Republic. To that end, he begins recommending a series of reforms to improve the Republic's security capabilities. For the first time in a century, the Republic will rearm and create a proper military. However, it is nothing like what Plagueis has in mind. Rather than creating the strong, centralized military that he wished with the clones, Tarkin has a different method. Border crises, marauding bands of pirates, and corporate groups have been flexing their muscles around the galaxy, seeking to determine the limits of their power and the extent of their wealth accumulation. However, this rise has not been entirely unchallenged, as many individuals have risen up to challenge them. These militias and resistance cells are battle-tested and skilled. All they require is some financial backing, which Tarkin is happy to provide. He establishes the Republic Defense Force, an organization tasked with addressing these threats, and recruits leaders to support him in this endeavor. Many of these men are little more than bandit chiefs and warlords, but they are treated like military officers, being granted funding to expand their military and being assigned sectors of the galaxy to protect. This leaves the men eager to fight their foes, but following a clear boundary that prevents them from gaining too much influence. Those who obey the rules and punish threats to the Republic are rewarded with modern weapons and more funds, while those who fail are left to rot until someone better can emerge. The system creates a loose coalition of soldiers loyal to Tarkin, rather than the Republic as their paymaster. It also creates considerable internal competition, as RDF generals must compete with each other as much as their enemies. It also gives them more independence, as they refuse to cooperate with the Senate, and especially not the Jedi. The only ones who can rein them in are Tarkin himself. The RDF proved to be effective, as many warlords are defeated across the galaxy. Their battle-hardened troops use the lessons from Naboo to learn how to combat corporate armies through small unit attacks, and the supplies sent by Tarkin allow them to enforce their will on entire systems. But this is a double-edged sword, as it also allows them to target and exploit civilians, demanding that they pay tribute and protection money for their services. Other times they simply loot villages or use their position as a de facto military to settle old scores. Reports of this corruption soon spread and reach the Senate's ears. In another age, this would have been highly controversial, and many would have called for his resignation. but no challenges came. His allies in the Senate, Masamada and Orn Frita, help keep him from prosecution. They ensure that they have him under control, and that since no major incidents of conflict have emerged, there is nothing to fear about this unprecedented arrangement. While they are regretful of these accidents, they assure the public that these are isolated cases. Nothing silences criticism more than success, and in this regard, in terms of beating back corporate influence, they have accomplished their goal. But this is exactly why Plagueis is furious. He sees how the corporate allies he had carefully cultivated and sponsored are being destroyed before his very eyes. These were the people he had hoped would add more chaos to the galaxy. The Naboo Crisis was only meant to be the spark that would lead to more issues, situations that he could use to consolidate power. But with Tarkin's new situation, it allows him to turn the situation into fine-tuned chaos. Now, in these sectors, nothing can happen without Tarkin's say-so. However, he cannot bring it up openly with Tarkin, as it would risk outing himself. To make matters worse, he has also hinted that should Plagueis take action against him, he might very well launch an investigation into his dealings. With Palpatine's help, Plagueis had been able to funnel grants and equipment for his research. Yet this was done with the Republic's money, and could lead them to learning about his research on essence transfer. His only consolation is that he is not the only one who is growing angry with these changes. Dooku is also disgruntled by Tarkin's plans. He had allied with Palpatine to bring change to the Republic, and force a new regime that could respond to the growing threat. He sees nothing of the sort in this captain's plans. While he is halting the influence of raiders, the RDF has also become the newest method for the Republic to enforce its will and exploit the suffering of others. The warlords are more than happy to take advantage of the people. They have also used their new authority to push the Jedi aside, leaving them unable to investigate their action. In some ways, it leaves the galaxy worse off. This makes the two of them natural allies, and in the dead of night, the two meet within the lower districts of Coruscant.
Thank you for meeting with me, Master. I'm glad to see you here. Surely you can see how this new military created by Tarkin will cause nothing but trouble. Indeed. It is simply a bandage over a blaster wound. It does not solve the problem, but hides it. And yet the people eat it all up. They think they see change. But all that will happen is that the Republic will drag on for a few more years. Perhaps a decade before its problems catch up. Not unless we can do something about it. We? Indeed. Of all of Palpatine's lieutenants, you are the only one who is acting out of true vision, not just ambition for their careers. I respect that. And perhaps with that vision, we can accomplish something greater.
And soon enough, the two Jedi begin to combat this growing threat of the RDF. While neither one of them has the strength to challenge Tarkin individually, they still have a major proxy to call upon, the Jedi Order. Using his influence in the banking clan, Plagueis sends them much-needed funds to continue their efforts to help the Republic. With Dooku's help, they begin identifying Jedi sympathetic to their cause and sending them funds they need. Though not said openly, it soon becomes an open secret that Dooku can influence how many resources a Jedi has to work with. He explains this is due to his title as Count of Sereno, allowing him to have immense wealth on his own and considerable influence within the banking clan. Dooku uses that to help more Jedi who are unafraid to bend the rules and defy the Republic, whether that is dealing with corruption or investigating matters that the Republic wishes to cover up. Meanwhile, Plagueis taps his allies among various corporations. He uses secondary channels in the HoloNet to organize an information campaign on the atrocities committed by the RDF. Groups like the Techno Union and Commerce Guild also issue statements, warning their workers about the dangers of the RDF and listing incident reports of all their issues. These are conveniently picked up and brought to light by the Jedi and the HoloNet. Hearing this, it becomes harder for either of the Senate or the Jedi to turn a blind eye to their actions. They are urged to take further action to combat corruption. Some Jedi now begin to launch patrols in the same systems where the RDF operates to ensure that they are not abusing their power. Rather than discouraging their actions, it only angers the RDF, who see the Jedi as threatening their position and overstepping. The Jedi representatives who arrive are greeted with mistrust, and the warlords often refuse to support them, sometimes threatening and bribing them. This would have worked had they not had Plagueis and Dooku's backing, who promised to protect them should the RDF try anything. So rather than back down, the Jedi continue their search, and soon the first major clash begins in Velgrren Prime. This industrial world is one of many worlds in the Outer Rim now placed under RDF jurisdiction. Factories belch endless smoke, and soot drifts like snow across rusted rooftops. Quinlan Voss crouches atop a warehouse, robes streaked with grime, gaze fixed on the central square below. He has heard tales of domestic terrorism below, and while the RDF claims that they have the situation under control, he decides to take a look for himself. The Jedi watches the factory workers being moved out of their shantytown alongside their families as another civil compliance drill is being conducted. A battered crowd of workers stands at gunpoint while Commander Balotorv, the RDF's planetary overseer, paces in front of them. All across the town, soldiers search for contraband, or so they claim. In reality, many of them are just looking for anything that happens to catch their interest. The commander orders his men to carry out punishments for their missed quotas, reminding them that some might think it's sabotage unless he punishes them. A woman screams as one of the RDF soldiers strikes a teenager with the butt of his rifle. Quinlan flinches, fingers twitching toward his lightsaber, but he waits, watches, observes. The Jedi Council had sent him here after a string of refugee reports, but the scale is worse than he feared. Thankfully, he also met with Dooku, who promised support for it. But then, gunfire erupts from the towns, and the soldiers look up. Before they can react, factory workers pull out hidden weapons, blasters, knives, and whatever they happen to scavenge up. They rush at the RDF and begin to challenge them, clubbing them as fighting breaks out. But the soldiers in the town are not some ragtag militia. When they reach the square, many sport body armor and blaster rifles. Compared to the factory workers, these people look like a proper army and put up more of a fight. Quinlan leaps down and joins the fight. He approaches one of the rebels and pulls her aside. This must be the support Dooku promised.
Who funds you?
All we know is someone off-world. They said they wanted to support the people who won't bow.
It's enough. Voss senses no deception, so he ignites his lightsaber and joins the fray. The Jedi leaps in front of the crowd and deflects blaster fire. He herds civilians away from the square. Once they're gone, he smiles and begins cutting through the RDF ranks. By nightfall, the streets of Velgrren erupt in fire. Explosions hammer the RDF supply depot. A resistance ambush hits a troop convoy. Quinlan leads the assault on the command bunker, deflecting blaster fire with liquid precision. Commander Torv is left with only a handful of guards as they try to escape via a freighter. As the ship takes off, the engines fail and the door slides open and reveals Quinlan holding a component from the ship he had taken.
Surrender. Now, you dare side with terrorists? The Jedi have no jurisdiction here. I have the Force. That's enough.
The real battle takes place on Coruscant, where the Senate is in chaos after this incident. Holograms of burning RDF vehicles and jubilant civilians over Velgrren flicker above the rotunda. Tarkin stands at the center podium, composed but furious beneath the surface.
This uprising was not just supported by Jedi interference, it was led by one of them. Master Voss undermined the Republic's lawful agents, endangered stabilization efforts, and emboldened anti-government militias. These people are terrorists, and we see him supporting them.
We have heard reports that the RDF commander in question committed egregious acts.
Then remove the commander. But we cannot allow Jedi to act as judge, jury, and executioner. They are not elected. They do not speak for this body.
I agree. The RDF is a Republic organization. The Jedi are not. To interfere with their efforts means going against the Jedi Order.
And what gives the RDF the right to treat towns as if they were under martial law? I do not recall granting them that power. And if they do, it must be rescinded immediately. That can only be done by the Senate.
A murmur ripples through the Senate. Orn Free-Taa whispers with his aides. Bail Organa furrows his brow.
And yet, Voss succeeded. The world is no longer burning. For now. But chaos smiles back when fed. And I assure you, someone is feeding it. And someone must pay.
As Dooku and Plagueis watched this, the two exchanged a pleased smile. It is exactly as they had hoped with this operation. They have seen that the RDF is not invincible, and they have learned. In this chaos, other nearby chapters heard about the conflict on Velgrren and had not sent aid. Resistance can succeed, and the RDF is not nearly as united as people think. This provides them with new opportunities. But first, they must begin recruiting allies, and Dooku reaches out to one like-minded Jedi Master.
Master Cypher-Dyas, good of you to meet with me.
Master Dooku, I take it you wish to discuss the recent incident on Velgrren. It is all people can talk about.
Indeed. I know you have never been a supporter of the RDF.
How can I, given all they have done? It has simply become another fount of corruption in the galaxy, one that must be destroyed.
On that, we can agree. But you know how slowly the wheels of the Republic turn. Sometimes it must be pushed to take action. That is why I come to you now. There is much we should discuss. I have an idea.
He holds out a datapad and shows the information he has gathered. There is data on Camino, on Jango Fett, and critical information about the potential of a new army, an army of clones. As Sifo-Dyas reads this, his eyes narrow as he studies the information. It is certainly ambitious, to say the least. There is great potential in what Dooku is suggesting, but also a great risk. If this goes wrong, it could plunge the galaxy into war.
I assume that you and your secret contact will be handling the expenses of this project. Still, to create an army like that, it will take a decade, not to mention having to convince the Senate to sign off on it.
Indeed. But nothing silences criticism more than success. I already have a small batch ordered ahead of time. Consider them prototypes.
And what shall happen to the RDF?
We must make them appear outdated, obsolete, and dangerous. Then the Republic will be clamoring for its removal.
It seems you have it all planned. What would you have me do?
Go to Camino, prepare the army, and return when you are given the signal.
But while they are planning their next move, Tarkin is now acting as well. He wastes no time in going after the allies of Plagueis and trying to seek more control over the banking clan. He insists that the Republic has more oversight in their goings-on, including having a permanent representative there and being allowed to investigate individuals or organizations suspected of treason. When they refuse, Tarkin allows the RDF to go after their holdings on other planets like Moonalist. They also go after the Commerce Guild and Trade Federation, having the RDF seize critical facilities, impound ships, and garrison critical trade junctions. All of this was done with the demand that they immediately cut ties with Plagueis and instead align themselves with the Republic. While this works for corporations, the Jedi prove harder to crack, and their recent success on Velgrren emboldens them. Those friendly to Dooku begin taking more action, openly challenging the RDF and leading resistance cells. Even the Jedi Council now gets involved, setting up outposts on planets and making sure they have Jedi loyal to them stationed, hoping to retake more control over the Jedi from Dooku. To their surprise, Dooku allows this to happen. However, Tarkin sees these new outposts as a threat. Having the Jedi personally involved seems to leave it to look like the Jedi are now throwing their lot in with Plagueis. In response, he begins gathering his RDF forces and declares conflict on them.
We are not at war, not officially, but the facts speak for themselves.
He activates a holomap. Dotted across the galaxy, red flashes, planets with Jedi outposts.
These installations have become armed camps. The Jedi claim they are stabilizing the Republic, acting as peacekeepers, but it is not the Republic they answer to. It is unaccountable, unchecked, and in more than one case, allied with separatist resistance cells.
Murmurs ripple across the floor. Orn-Free Ta nervously adjusts his robes. A few senators nod, others look away.
We will no longer allow military assets to operate beyond Republic authority. I am authorizing sweeps to ensure compliance. If these Jedi installations harbor rebels, we will act accordingly.
Mas Amata mirrors his words and gives his support. Soon the rest of the Senate follows, and soon the RDF begins finding itself operating across planets that happen to host Jedi outposts. Random inspections are conducted, forcing the Jedi to comply or risk being branded as traitors. Some of them even try to confiscate their lightsabers, but this soon leads to conflict. Soon, the Jedi begin also recording RDF atrocities across the galaxy, showing them brutalizing civilian populations, rounding people up, and looting towns. Others resist openly, joining up with the resistance fighters and finding themselves reinforced by Plagueis, who uses intermediaries in the underworld to arm local militias and dispatch mercenaries to help. The skirmishes mount. The line between law enforcement and war blurs. Eventually, these attacks give Tarkin reason to act, as he now has an excuse to respond in force. He issues a command to his warlords, promising rewards to those who can capture the outpost and force the banking clan to submit to them. As RDF ships begin their descent, the small Jedi task force in the city is forced to confront them on their own. They defend the planet as best they can. Lightsabers flash, and they organize a small militia to counterattack against the RDF. The fighting is brutal as the Jedi fight gallantly, though they remain outnumbered and they are slowly pushed back. The Jedi hear this and begin gathering a relief force. 3 battle groups led by Masters Mace Windu, Ki-Adi-Mundi, and Dooku. The first 2 forces clash with the RDF, trying to break through the blockade. It is a struggle as their arrival is expected, and they are ready for them. The fighting swings back and forth, with neither side being able to gain the upper hand. The Jedi look up and expect Dooku's arrival, yet no such aid comes. Instead of joining the assault, the Jedi Master reroutes his battle group to Coruscant, claiming a strategic diversion. Many are incredulous, but he ignores these messages. The situation is serious, but he does not come. It is a necessary risk, a necessary sacrifice. Instead, his task force returns to Coruscant, where he meets Sifo Dyas in a secure docking bay beneath the old Senate Guard barracks. Standing at attention before them are 1,000 clones, the first batch of his clone army. Their commanding officer is a red-trimmed captain named Fordo.
We're ready, Master.
Then it is time.
All right, men. It's time to move.
He opens a crate and reveals racks of blaster rifles.
Here, your dates for the evening.
The clones all laugh, and one steps forward, picking up a gun.
I'll take the blonde.
Under the cover of darkness, the clone unit fans out. They disable security systems, jam communications, and flood the Senate Tower's lower levels. The Senate guards try to stop them, along with elite RDF forces left behind by Tarkin. Blaster fire suddenly erupts on the landing pad as they realize what is happening, but Fordo does not back down. He quickly organizes his men and arranges them into firing position to beat back the RDF forces. Unlike the usual militias, the clones are well trained and well equipped. Despite being outnumbered, they form an unbreakable line and start pushing forward, gunning down their forces with ruthless efficiency. Once a hole in their line is formed, Dooku, Plagueis, Sifo Dyas, and Fordo rush into the office with the second squad. By the time Mas Amata realizes something is wrong, Fordo's troopers have surrounded his chambers. Dooku steps in, robes billowing.
You've been used, Chancellor. Tarkin was never loyal to the Republic, only to his vision of control.
We have evidence. Intercepted orders, civilian purges, backdoor asset seizures, reports on looting, forced abduction, and more. He moved beyond oversight months ago.
Tarkin growls and snaps his fingers. Suddenly, a group of elite security droids appear, brandishing electrostaffs. They spring forward, rushing towards the group. Fordo raises his blasters, but Plagueis chuckles.
Have your men secure the Chancellor. We can handle this.
The 3 rush forward. Dooku steps first, his lightsaber flashing and cutting through the droids. His lightsaber expertly parries each strike and then deflects them. He parries and riposts, then goes on the attack. A few quick thrusts are all it takes for him to cut them down. Sifo Dyas is wilder. His movements are unpredictable as he whirls into the center of their formation. Many rush to face him, but his lightsaber always comes out to block their attacks and then returns with a savage slash. Plagueis doesn't even bother to power up his lightsaber. When they close in on him, he unleashes a red burst of lightning that shatters the 3 remaining droids. He turns just in time to see Tarkin firing his blaster pistol. Plagueis catches it with the Force and directs it aside. With no time and no allies in the room, Mas Amata buckles.
Issue the decree.
The Chancellor's voice trembles as he activates the broadcast.
New evidence has come to light regarding the conduct of the RDF and its Supreme Commander by executive authority. I hereby declare Captain Wilf Tarkin a traitor to the Galactic Republic. He is to be arrested at once for questioning.
Plagueis smiles, and his lightsaber ignites faster than Tarkin can react and cuts him down. This is easy to cover up as they simply argue Tarkin tried to flee and resisted arrest, leaving them no choice. Without their leader, the RDF splinters immediately. They have no loyalty to the Republic and no allies. The warlords and generals all retreat, heading back to their old headquarters, while others try to fight. However, these men are quickly hunted down by the new clone forces, who prove effective, and are joined by the local militias, seeing them as more reliable and more disciplined than the RDF ever was. The Senate soon votes to expand the clone army just as Plagueis wants, and a new candidate for Chancellor is selected. And the plan is now back on track, as Plagueis and Dooku's standing in their organization continues to grow. In secret, the 2 begin training in the ways of the dark side. That's our theory. The Star Wars universe is a galaxy filled with exciting stories and possibilities, and we love exploring them. If you want to accompany us on this journey to a galaxy far, far away, then please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.